ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track. And ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Tuesday, April 22nd. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. A mostly sunny day on the way. Just a beauty. High 78. Tonight and overnight, cloudy, low 54. And then, what the heck, we'll do it all over again tomorrow, Wednesday. Sunshine, a little cooler, high 72. If you are walking out the door with us right now, 53 and clear in Yonkers up in Westchester County. 52 and partly cloudy in Frenchtown, over in New Jersey. And it's 53 and partly cloudy right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
All right, so who will be the next pope? Another Menendez is on their way to prison. A group of vigilantes took down a creep in the Bronx. A Brooklyn feud between brothers almost turns deadly. And bees have not been very busy lately. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. It is about Pope Francis, the Vatican leading a rosary following Pope Francis's death.
Era stata rimossa dal sepolcro e entrate non trovarono il corpo del Signore
That
Gesù.
rosary taking place in Vatican City. While praying the rosary, of course, Catholics use a set of beads or knots to count and keep track of prayers. Pope Francis's death at the age of 88 sets off now a series of events at the Vatican that starts with a 9-day mourning period. Claudio Lavaggia has more.
In 2 days, the Pope will lie in state in St. Peter's Basilica, allowing the Catholics and pilgrims and everyone else who appreciated and loved the Pope to pay their last respects.
Yeah, so Pope Francis will lie in state at St. Peter's Basilica.
In 4 to 6 days, we do expect a funeral for Pope Francis to take place here in St. Peter's Square. And then in 15 to 20 days from now, the conclave will take place. Of course, that is the process through which Cardinals will have to elect a new Pope.
And it is kind of shocking to Catholics, only because, Pope Francis had not been in great health for a long time, but he did appear in St. Peter's Square on Easter Sunday, rode the car through the crowd, blessing children, and so people were shocked to wake up yesterday morning to hear that he had passed away.
He, of course, looked frail, as he's done for the past few months, especially also after he left a hospital more than a month ago, but there were some signs that his health was recovering. He was not wearing those oxygen tubes in his nose anymore. He got on that Pope mobile.
Yeah, so now lots of things take place. First, let's check in with the Archbishop of New York, who's going to head to Rome tonight. He's going to mourn with Catholics here in New York first. Of course, that's Cardinal Timothy Dolan, celebrating the pontiff's life, sharing memories from the Pope's first time here in New York City.
He was overwhelmed just by the size of the city. And I remember when I was jammed into the back of that little Fiat, he's saying, "What are all those buildings?" I said, "Well, Holy Father, that's where people live." And he was just looking right. He was also amazed at the enthusiastic reception.
And he might have been amazed at meeting little Noam Layden at the time. I wasn't so little, but I was a reporter on the street, and we got to be part of a private audience with him when he was in New York City, which was awfully cool and a memory that I will remember the rest of my life. Dolan, part of a conclave of cardinals, elected Pope Francis in 2013. He'll be part of the upcoming conclave, which is a series of secret votes that take place in the Sistine Chapel to select a new pope.
The day that we believe Jesus rose from the dead and shares that victory with us, in which we trust by divine mercy, Pope Francis now shares in abundance. You couldn't have choreographed it better.
Oh, that's true.
He'd be the first to admit that perhaps the abundant gifts that God had given him were evident elsewhere, in his simplicity, in his humility, in his easygoingness. These were boy, these were gifts that he stewarded so well.
And yesterday at the Easter egg roll on the White House front lawn, President Trump says he would be ordering flags to be flown at half-staff in honor of Pope Francis.
He was a good man, worked hard. He loved the world, and it's an honor to do that.
Governor Kathy Hochul, a Roman Catholic, mourning the passing of Francis.
My recollection of meeting Pope Francis is a man of great humility, but also love of people.
She met the pontiff back in 2015, says the Vatican's first Jesuit in the role of Pope was a man of great humility.
Members of the LGBTQ plus community, migrants, people who are impoverished, people who are in prison, those are the ones that he gave God's compassion to.
And then there's the regular folk, the more than 1 billion Catholics thinking about the future as they mourn the pontiff.
Just one who follows the traditional church. That's what I like to see. But as long as he's following the will of God, that's all that counts.
I hope they go a little bit more open with the church, which Pope Francis opened it up a little bit more. And I think, it's getting a little bit more progressive.
Hopefully somebody replaces him that is flexible with the rules of the church and the modern times we're in and, make some adjustments.
Someone similar to Pope Francis. Yeah, he was more modern than a lot of the other popes. He got the average person.
And correspondent Keir Simons, he's in Vatican City, reports that after Francis' funeral, cardinals from around the world will gather for that conclave to select a new pope.
No phones, no electronics of any kind, not even any notes. After day one, there are 4 rounds of secret ballots every day until one name receives a 2/3 majority.
What's cool about this, of course, is like an ancient ceremony that goes back so many years. The cardinals will burn the ballots twice a day. If the resulting smoke, of course, is black, it signals that no decision has been made. If it's white, it means a new pope has been chosen.
Over the next 2 weeks, cardinals under the age of 80 from across the globe will descend on Vatican City, holding a series of formal meetings known as general congregations, and more informal, direct conversations too. The list swirling of likely contenders who may be pontiff material spans the globe from Asia to Africa to the Holy Land to Europe and Canada. Will the next pope be someone close to Francis, set to continue his legacy? Or a more conservative voice?
That's the intrigue here. Theologian Jonathan Moore said the cardinals will talk informally before they officially meet, maybe to sort of take an informal vote of who they're thinking to choose.
Politicking or the human factor goes into full throttle, and they start meeting in the back rooms of restaurants and hotel rooms all over the place. These groups of cardinals saying, who's your guy? What do you think? What about this?
Yeah, so maybe in some ways they have somebody, at least a top 3, before they walk into the Sistine Chapel.
Everybody goes into the conclave, into the Sistine Chapel, and they have no contact with the world after that. These 135 voting cardinals, as of today, 135, they will vote their first choice.
No doubt it is now a time of mourning within the Catholic Church, but also a time of really becomes very interesting about how and when they'll pick this new pontiff. WABC News Time 5:10. The wife of former New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez found guilty yesterday in her federal bribery and corruption trial. A Manhattan jury found Nadine Menendez guilty of all 15 charges, including conspiracy to commit bribery and extortion. Several of those charges carry up to 20 years behind bars. Prosecutors say Nadine Menendez was a partner in crime with her husband, a go-between demanding and collecting bribery payments in the form of gold bars, cash, and a Mercedes. Bob Menendez, of course, her husband, he was found guilty last year, will report to prison to serve an 11-year sentence come June. That's when his wife will learn her fate. Now, what was interesting yesterday is he was nowhere to be seen in the courtroom, so not clear what's going on between the two of them. 5:10. The wife of detained Columbia University grad student Mahmoud Khalil accused federal immigration officials of purposely denying a request for her husband to attend the birth of their first child in order to make the family suffer. Noor Abdallah said in a statement released last night that she had to give birth to a baby boy yesterday without her husband by her side. She says ICE has declined a request to grant Khalil temporary release from that detention center in Louisiana. Louisiana, cities could travel here to the city for the birth of the baby. Protesters, they were out yesterday, too, still hoping that they can prevent Khalil from being deported.
What this means in reality, if this is carried out, is that anyone who speaks out, anyone who dissents against the Trump administration could be a target for detention, for deportation. And that means that we're slipping into authoritarianism here in the United States.
Now, the federal government pushing back contends Khalil is a national security risk. An immigration judge in Louisiana ruled earlier this month that the government's assertion that Khalil's presence in the U.S. posed potentially serious foreign policy consequences satisfied requirements for his deportation. A lawyer for Khalil says the ruling is being appealed to the Board of Immigration Appeals. 512. Reports of vigilante justice after an attempted rape up in the Bronx.
Last Friday, police identified their suspect in an attempted rape case and asked the public for help. They posted video of a man with no pants on who they say tried to rape a 70-year-old woman near Creston Avenue and 184th Street in Fordham Heights around noon last Friday. Less than 24 hours later came an anonymous call. The suspect had been detained by residents 5 blocks away and that they could find their suspect in the hospital. Investigators say he's not been helpful identifying the people who attacked him. No word on his injuries. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
WABC News Time 512. Down to Washington. Secretary of Defense pushing back against reports he shared more military plans across another group chat in the Signal app. Speaking outside the White House, Pete Hegseth said some leakers got dismissed from the Pentagon and then did some hit pieces on him.
See, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people.
Now, what was interesting about the comments he made is he did not directly refute the reports, saying he'd shared the military plans regarding that operation against the Houthis in Yemen with his brother and his lawyer, who, by the way, both work for the Defense Department, but he also shared it with his wife, who does not have a job at the Department of Defense.
Hoaxsters. This group, this group right here, full of hoaxsters that peddle anonymous sources from leakers with access to grind.
And then over at the Department of Homeland Security, the Secretary Kristi Noem's purse containing $3,000 in cash, her DHS access bag stolen Sunday night at a restaurant in downtown D.C. The DHS secretary confirming that Noem was eating dinner when a thief stole the purse, which also contained Noem's passport, her driver's license, blank checks, and her keys. People still carry around checks. I guess they do. She explained to Newsmax that Noem was celebrating Easter with her family, so she had those items with her. She had the cash. I guess she was giving it out to the grandkids. A law enforcement official says that Secret Service reviewed security footage from the restaurant from Sunday night and saw an unknown white male wearing a medical mask steal her bag and leave the restaurant, of course, which begs more questions. First of all, just the fact that she had her purse stolen is a huge deal, but the second part is she's being protected by Secret Service agents. How is this person able to get so close to her and steal the bag? I can guess just from being other people around other women who've had their bags stolen in places like restaurants is she probably had it hanging on the back of her chair because that seems like a popular place to put a bag. But again, the Secret Service not commenting on the fact that that bag was stolen when they were protecting her, or supposed to be anyway, inside this restaurant in D.C. on Sunday night. All right, 5:15. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Good morning, Justin Ellen.
Well, good morning to you, Noam Laden. Start here on the hardwood last night at the Garden. The Knicks dropped Game 2 of their first-round playoff series against the Detroit Pistons. The final score 100-94. Dennis Schroeder made the tie-breaking three-pointer with 55 seconds left, and the Pistons snapped their NBA record 15-game postseason losing streak in the process. Jalen Brunson scored 37 points for the number 3 seeded Knicks, but Karl Anthony Towns and OG Anunoby were each limited to 10 after both finished with 23 points in the series opener. Following a couple of days off here, Detroit will host Game 3 come Thursday night. Knicks will have to bounce back. To the MLB, in Queens, Francisco Lindor hit 2 more home runs, including a leadoff shot for the second consecutive day, and the Mets held off the Philadelphia Phillies 5-4 in the first meeting this season between the NL East rivals. Lindor has 5 home runs this season, 4 in the last 4 games. He's on quite the tear. Jesse Winker also went deep as the first-place Mets won their 5th straight game and improved to 10-1 at home. And after the Phillies scored 4 times in the 9th inning, Edwin Diaz struck out Trey Turner, and Bryce Harper to earn his 6th save. Tyler McGill allowed 1 hit and matched a career high by striking out 10 over 5 1/3 scoreless innings. Up next for the Mets, Griffin Canning will start tonight's middle game of the series, scheduled for a 7:10 p.m. first pitch from Citi Field. In Cleveland, the Yankees fell in their series opener against the Guardians, losing 6-4. Cleveland led 6-0 before Jason Dominguez hit a 2-run homer in the 7th, and Jazz Chisholm Jr., who had been in a 1-for-18 slide, had a 2-run drive in the 8th. The Yankees went 0-for-5 with runners in scoring position. It's just a second loss in 8 games for American League leading New York. Aaron Judge extended his on-base streak to 19 games, going 1-for-4 with a walk. The reigning AL MVP leads the majors with a .384 average, 33 hits, and 25 RBI. Up next for the Yankees, Will Warren gets a start in tonight's middle game of the series, scheduled for a 6:10 p.m. first pitch from Cleveland. That's your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
Hey, business owners, make your cash secure again with Secure Cash LLC. Transporting your business's cash safely in armored trucks. SecureCashLLC.com. WABC News Time 5:19. Republicans continue to defend the recent deportation of the illegal immigrants, some of which have been sent to a notorious prison in El Salvador.
To listen to some of my Democratic colleagues talk, one would think that Kristi Noem is deporting grandmothers. Well, this couldn't be further from the truth.
Senator John Cornyn there of Texas says the numbers don't lie. The Department of Homeland Security has made more than 32,000 arrests just in 50 days. Nearly half are convicted criminals. Others have been living in the country despite final orders of deportation, and 39 are known or suspected terrorists.
One of the reasons he got elected is because the American people were fed up with open borders.
John Cornyn says these deportations should be anything but controversial.
The Trump administration is rightly carrying on one of the most basic functions of the government, and that's to keep our people safe.
5:20, let's go from Washington up to Boston. Harvard University suing the Trump administration now in an effort to block the government from freezing funds to the Ivy League school.
The lawsuit, which was filed in a U.S. district court in Massachusetts against multiple federal agencies, is looking to block the administration from withholding funding for what it calls leverage to gain control of academic decision-making at Harvard. Earlier Monday, the Wall Street Journal reported that the Trump administration is planning to pull an additional $1 billion in funding from the university. The White House had previously said it was freezing over $2.2 billion in contracts and grants after failing to meet demands, including eliminating DEI programs. Meanwhile, the IRS is moving to take away the tax-exempt status from Harvard. I'm Mark Mayfield.
This week marks the 15th anniversary of the Deepwater Horizon oil rig explosion.
11 people were killed. More than 100 million gallons of crude oil leaked into the Gulf of Mexico, much of which floated to the Louisiana coastline, which is still feeling the effects. A newly released report by the conservation nonprofit Oceana found the impacts to wildlife, habitat, and humans who rushed to help were more severe than most anticipated. I'm Brian Shook.
5:21, jury deliberations are going to continue this morning in the so-called Doomsday Mom murder conspiracy in Phoenix. Lori Vallow Daybell is accused of conspiring to kill her 4th husband in 2019 with the help of her brother.
Charles Vallow is dead today because this defendant and her brother Alex Cox conspired to kill him. They planned it out.
Vallow Daybell, already convicted in Idaho back in 2023 of murdering her 2 young children, conspiring to murder her husband's first wife, represented herself in the trial, told the jury the state did not prove its case.
The state put forth a bunch of evidence in this trial in an effort to make you dislike me, to try to attack my character, so that you would just say guilty no matter what evidence they showed you.
And Daybell told the jury that the state just got it all wrong.
The state did not show you evidence of an agreement to commit murder. They showed you evidence of a family tragedy.
Prosecution in the case had one final message.
The evidence proves to you that Lori Vallow Daybell is guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder.
Those deliberations will continue this morning. 5:22. Los Angeles city officials investigating after dozens of trees were chopped down in downtown. Nobody knows who did this. It's one of these weird stories. Media Musave, who runs the Downtown LA Insider Instagram page, he's one of these folks that just tapes everything, takes pictures of everything, noticed that the trees were down when he was out for a walk over the weekend.
I live downtown, walked around as I usually do. I saw a tree on Olympic and Hope, and it was chopped down. I thought it was the city, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, so sometime during the weekend, several trees, various locations were cut down. They don't know how many in all, but they think it's a fair amount.
And as I'm walking around the city, I'm starting to see trees in more areas. There's 3 right above us on Grand. There's this one behind us.
Yeah, so he wasn't the only one that noticed that there were trees missing.
And then people started reaching out via online and just basically saying, hey, I can't believe it. Have you seen this? Have you seen this? It wasn't an isolated incident. It's clear that this is something a little more sinister.
Yeah.
I've been living in downtown since 2017, born and raised Angelino. So we've seen it all in our city, but nothing quite like this.
And even after he gave this interview yesterday, they say they've noticed more trees were cut down. So mayor's office, police investigating. They don't know what really took place. Of course, they can look at surveillance cameras, maybe get an idea of who was chopping them down. 5:24, the Texas man who shot up an El Paso Walmart, killing nearly 24 people, entering a guilty plea yesterday that takes the death penalty off the table. The DA there says this gives closure to some of the victims' families.
It was very clear as we met with the families that there is a strong and overwhelming consensus that just wanted this case over with.
There is a chance that Patrick Cruises may be moved from a federal prison to a supermax prison, where he'll serve 90 consecutive life sentences.
I could not continue to seek the death penalty against the wishes of so many of the victims. It's that simple. That's what changed.
5:24, while we're down there, Texas lawmakers moving on from private school vouchers to address what's being taught in state public university. A bill is on the table now that calls for the screening of required college coursework for liberal bias before teachers can teach in the classroom.
Reshaping, refocusing is definitely in order.
So that's Sherry Sylvester. She's with the Texas Public Policy Foundation, says there's already a state law that bans forced diversity and inclusion on college campuses. Says this bill would crack down on teachers who push their own biases in the classroom.
The curriculum has to be readdressed by people who live and work in the real world.
Not clear if the bill has a chance of getting through, but they did listen to her argument yesterday. 5:25. Federal Trade Commission is suing Uber now over its subscription program.
The agency accuses the ride-sharing and delivery company of deceptive billing practices tied to Uber One subscriptions. The FTC's lawsuit alleges Uber One doesn't give subscribers a simple way to cancel their membership and charges them without their consent. FTC Chairman Andrew Ferguson says Americans are tired of getting signed up for unwanted subscriptions that seem impossible to cancel. He adds the Trump-Vance FTC is fighting back on behalf of the American people. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
5:26, an e-commerce company exec says no new employees would be hired if AI, artificial intelligence, can do the job better.
The directive to managers at Shopify is prove a new hire could do better than AI or just use AI. But the CEO at Sacramento-based My Outdesk, Daniel Ramsey, says that's the wrong approach.
I wouldn't put employee or use fear tactics like the CEO did. I just think that's a mistake.
Ramsey says at his company, which outsources virtual staffing, he encourages his employees to embrace AI and to find ways to incorporate it into their everyday processes.
That's Michael Monk's reporting. In Instagram using AI, artificial intelligence, in order to crack down on teenagers lying about their age.
Its parent company, Meta, announced Monday that it's currently in the testing phase in the U.S. The software is designed to find accounts that are believed to be teenage profiles, which would then put them into the teen account settings. The tech giant says it's been using AI to verify ages for a while, but this is the first time this specific method is being used. Last year, Instagram launched teen-specific accounts with beefed-up protections as well as parental controls. I'm Matt Mattinson.
You're listening to the number one Nielsen rated, the News Hour with Noam Laden. The best. Thank you for listening. 77 WABC. The best. It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5:35. Good morning. It is Tuesday, April 22nd. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. A mostly sunny day on the way, high 78. Tonight and overnight, cloudy, low 54. And then Wednesday, sunshine, high 72. If you're walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 53 and clear in Yonkers up in Westchester County. 52 and partly cloudy in Frenchtown over in New Jersey. And it's 53 and partly cloudy right outside our Midtown studios. We'll start this half hour up in the Bronx, where there was a little street justice. A man accused of sexually assaulting a 70-year-old woman wound up in the hospital after an encounter with a group of vigilantes in the Bronx. Police say the group tracked down the man less than 24 hours after news broke that he tried to force himself on a woman near Fordham. The NYPD released video of the wanted man seen with no pants on moments after he allegedly attempted to rape a woman. This was near Creston Avenue and 184th Street, middle of the day on Friday. So word of the attack spread quickly through this neighborhood.
I have children and I have an older mother, so yeah, it's very disturbing to hear.
Can't even come outside during the day. You have to have 4 eyes behind you, on the side of you. That's really messed up what he did.
The people in the neighborhood took it into their own hands. They tracked this guy down, and law enforcement sources say an anonymous call came into police over the weekend saying that this wanted man had been detained by neighbors and that they had delivered vigilante justice near Tybot Avenue. The caller finished the call by saying that detectives could find their suspect in the hospital. And when you talk to people in this neighborhood, they say, thank God for these vigilantes.
Can't blame them. I can't blame them.
I would have done the same thing. Because it could have been my grandmother, it could have been anybody. I would have done the same thing.
Now, police are not on board with this as much as I might be. They say, no, you can't take this into your own hands. And so now they're looking for the people who were involved in this attack on this man who tried to rape a woman.
It's messed up because the government really don't do much about it. They'll lock him up now and let him go later.
There's too many people getting arrested and there's too many people getting out of jail free-handed. I'm so happy they got him up out of here. He deserved what he got. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree. Police sources, though, say this individual who's in the hospital has not been helping detectives identify his attackers, even though he likely knows who they are. WABC News Time 5:39. The wife of former New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez found guilty yesterday in her federal bribery and corruption trial. A Manhattan jury found Nadine Menendez guilty in all 15 charges, including conspiracy to commit bribery, extortion. Several of those charges carry up to 20 years behind bars. Her lawyer out with her after the court case had been decided.
We are devastated by the verdict.
Prosecutors say Nadine Menendez was a partner in crime with her husband, a go-between demanding and collecting bribery payments in the form of gold bars, cash, and Mercedes. Now, reporters were there with her lawyer, who, by the way, did not seem like the most likable guy. You want to have a likable guy as your lawyer in court, but okay, that was my impression. But also, she was there, so reporters said, why don't you answer some of our questions?
Mrs. Menendez, how are you feeling?
I don't think she's going to speak directly to you, if that's okay.
Yeah, she did not say anything at all. Her husband, who was not in the courtroom, and I don't know that he was at all during the case, I'm trying to remember. Bob Menendez, of course, the former senator from New Jersey, he was found guilty last year, will report to prison to serve an 11-year sentence in June. That's when his wife will learn what her fate is, which might match similar to what his is. They both could end up with about 11 years behind bars. Don't think a lot of people in New Jersey are crying for them today. 5:41. President Trump yesterday expressing his support for the Massapequa, Long Island school community that's fighting to keep the Chiefs name and logo. So Trump yesterday posted on Truth Social that the school board and virtually everyone in the area are demanding the name be kept. It has become the school's identity, and what could be wrong with using the name Chief? He says, I don't see the Kansas City Chiefs changing their name anytime soon. Now, the reason the Massapequa Union Free School has been pushed to change the name is the State Department of Education is against using Native American names and has threatened funding for schools that continue to do so. But now the district is suing the state because they don't want to change their name. And they have lots of people on their side, not just the president, of course, the most powerful person on the planet, but locally they have Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman on their side.
When I think of a chief, I think of a leader. When I think of a warrior, I think of somebody with bravery, somebody who is loyal. And we honor and celebrate our Native American heritage here on Long Island. We have tribes that were here, the Shinnecox, the Merokis, the Massapequa tribe, part of the Algonquin Nation, the Iroquois Nation, the Mohawk Nation. We love our Native American heritage, and we're honoring Native Americans, and they want to make them extinct.
A spokesperson for the New York State Education Department says disrespecting entire groups of people is wrong in any context, but especially in our schools. In March, a judge ruled against the Massapequa Union Free School District after it sued to keep the Chiefs name. The name change stems from that statewide ban on Native American imagery and mascots. So where this goes from here, not clear, but of course it's a big moment when the president weighs in on what's a small town issue in Massapequa, but of course with wide-ranging effects statewide. 542, up to the Bronx. Police have released new information about the 4-year-old who was found inside a Wakefield apartment with 2 bodies on Friday. Authorities now confirming that the girl was trapped in this apartment with her dead mother and brother for at least 2 weeks. In fact, neighbors said they heard screams from this apartment from this 4-year-old, but they didn't check it out. News 12 spoke with the children's grandfather, who's now caring for the young girl. He says that she is physically doing okay, but the family, of course, remains in shock. Police say they made the discovery. This was East 231st Street during a wellness check on Friday, but there's a lot of questions that remain, especially after reports that the Administration for Children's Services had visited the apartment earlier that week. One person who did not want to be identified says he's deeply concerned about this little girl's future, and I think probably everyone is.
I hope that she gets all the mental health care that she needs, and, she can heal, and that, she grows up without having this traumatic experience, be attached to her whole life.
Now, police have not released an official cause of death. They say there's nothing suspicious here. We have heard from neighbors that the mother of the child, an 8-year-old who was autistic, had mental health issues, which suggests that maybe she carried out the crime. But they say they're not looking for anyone else, and they have not released any more details. But a shocking part of that story we only found out in the last 12, 18 hours is that 4-year-old girl somehow lasted 2 weeks in the apartment all alone. Her mother and brother dead in the apartment, which is just breaks your heart in two. 544, the wife of the Columbia University grad student detained by ICE says he was denied a temporary release for the birth of his child, which took place yesterday.
The wife of Mahmoud Khalil said in a statement she welcomed their son into the world alone. A decision made by ICE, she says, is to make the family suffer. Khalil's attorneys wrote Sunday to the director of ICE's field office in New Orleans requesting a 2-week release, a request which was denied about a half hour later. He's been detained more than a month due to his position as the lead negotiator for the pro-Palestinian encampment on Columbia University's campus last year. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
5:45 now. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Alec.
Thank you, Noam Layden. We will start here at the Garden. The Knicks dropped Game 2 of their first-round playoff series against the Detroit Pistons. The final score of 100-94. Dennis Schroeder made the tie-breaking three-pointer with 55 seconds left, and the Pistons snapped their NBA record 15-game postseason losing streak in the process. Jalen Brunson scored 37 points for the 3-seeded Knicks. but Karl Anthony Towns and OG Anunoby were each limited to 10 after both finished with 23 points in the series opener. Following a couple of days off here, Detroit will host Game 3 come Thursday night. To the Diamond in Queens, Francisco Lindor hit 2 more home runs, including a leadoff shot for the second consecutive day, and the Mets held off the Phillies 5-4 in the first meeting this season between the NL East rivals. Lindor has 5 home runs this season, 4 in the last 4 games. Jesse Winker also went deep as the first-place Mets won their 5th straight game and improved to 10-1 at home. After the Phillies scored 4 times in the 9th inning, Edwin Diaz struck out Trey Turner and Bryce Harper to earn his 6th save. Tyler McGill allowed 1 hit and matched a career high by striking out 10 over 5 1/3 scoreless innings. Up next for the Mets, Griffin Canning will start tonight's middle game of the series, scheduled for a 7:10 p.m. first pitch from Citi Field. In Cleveland, the Yankees fell in their series opener against the Guardians, losing 6-4. Cleveland led 6-0 before Jason Dominguez hit a 2-run homer in the 7th, and Jazz Chisholm Jr., who had been in a 1-for-18 slide, had a 2-run drive in the 8th. The Yankees went 0-for-5 with runners in scoring position. It's just the second loss in 8 games for the American League leading Yanks. Aaron Judge extended his on-base streak to 19 games, going 1-for-4 with a walk. The reigning AL MVP leads the majors with a .384 average, 33 hits, and 25 RBI. Up next for the Yankees, Will Warren gets to start in tonight's middle game of the series, scheduled for a 6:10 p.m. first pitch from Cleveland. That is your Sports Know, man. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. Just a bizarre story out of Brooklyn. A Brooklyn man says his older brother tried to kill him in broad daylight over a family dispute over the weekend. So not all these people want to be identified, but the victim here, his first name, and I assume it's a nickname, is Jinx. And he has 2 brothers that have spent time in prison. So when they got out of prison, he owns a house in the Flatlands section of Brooklyn. He said, I'm going to help them out, help them get back on their feet, and let them live with me.
My brothers have spent many years in prison. They were in and out, and the lives that they chose is not the life I chose. They completely stopped paying rent. I would never imagine in a million years.
So Jinx seems like he's this upstanding individual who's lived a good life. So he let his brothers live in his home, I think rent-free, if I'm not mistaken, on East 52nd Street. He gave them 90-day notice a couple days ago because he wants to sell the house. And they rewarded him with trying to shoot him, I should say, allegedly, at least one of them.
We exchanged words for less than 30 seconds, and he ends up pulling out a gun and starts shooting at me. As he's gained on me, he's about 5 feet away from me, and he's pointing the gun at me. I kind of knew that was the end, but for some odd reason, he just suddenly stopped, made a U-turn, and ran off. It turns out his gun jammed.
Thank God that gun jammed. Now, I should point out I had the one piece of information wrong. They were paying him a little bit of rent. Then he gave him the 90-day notice. Then one of them tried to shoot him dead. This was over the weekend. So the gunman, his brother, he's still missing. Police haven't found him yet.
He's still out there. He still has his gun with him, and I'm in fear that he's going to come back and finish the job. Scary. It's extremely scary. He's armed. He's dangerous, and I do ask that anyone that sees him, don't approach him. Just, call 911.
Some people, they just can't be helped even if you're trying to do good. 5:51. A popular Korean beauty store in Williamsburg seeing a rush of customers stocking up on skincare products. Now, since I don't really use skincare products, I didn't realize that apparently Korean beauty products are all the rage right now. And there's a worry that these proposed tariffs that could dramatically increase prices. So one of these stores in Williamsburg, in hipster Williamsburg, Senti's shelves have been lined with these Korean and Japanese skincare essentials, from things like a mask to sunscreen. And what they've noticed over just the last week or two since these tariffs have been announced, that people are coming in and bulk buying. They're not just buying one container, they're buying like 10 containers.
Somebody actually bought 9 sunscreen.
I can barely get this product. I might as well just buy these 5 rather than 1 now.
Yeah, the panic stems from the proposed tariffs, 25% on imports from South Korea, 24% for Japan. Now, this store says it has some, product in the basement ready to go, but after that, they're worried the prices are going to go up 25 or 24%, and they say clearly their consumers feel the same way. That's why they're coming and buying a lot of items.
Everything is unstable, and right now it looks pretty good because a lot lot of people are buying multiple things, but what is it going to look like after?
Yeah, so there's uncertainty about that. Of course, with Japan, South Korea, there's a 90-day pause on tariffs, but that's set to expire on July 1st. People are worried about what will happen to that. By the way, when you hear from the car companies, that worked for them too. People worried that cars were going to cost so much more that there was a lot of buying of cars in the last 3 or 4 weeks ahead of those tariffs. 552, ahead of the steep summer rate hikes, New Jersey Congressman Josh Gottheimer says he's taking action to fight the utility companies.
That's why today I'm announcing new action to fight back against higher utility bills and defend Jersey families from these relentless attacks on their pocketbooks.
I don't know about you, but boy, my utility bill is just bananas. And it's not like I have a ton of people in my house. I look at it, I'm like, how could it be so high? Gottheimer says it doesn't matter if it's PSE&Gs, JCP&L, Orange and Rockland. He says the utility giants are ripping off New Jerseyans no matter where they live. He says when you add this June's impending 20% rate hike to last November, it was a 16% hike back in November, I think. It's the picture, of course, of incompetence. Why are they getting so much money from us, and why is it being at all approved?
When you add it up over the last year, families are looking at nearly 40% increase on their utility bills.
Yeah, I was thinking that my utility bill has almost doubled, which is just outrageous. By the way, I don't know that there's a whole lot he can do. I mean, he can go after the utility board and say, hey, how come you keep approving these rate hikes and crushing New Jersey's people's their wallets and their pocketbooks? 554. Back here in the city, New York City, expanding a couple key programs for the next school year. Mayor Adams announcing that NYC Reads and NYC Solves programs will be available now at 186 additional schools across 14 districts.
These programs have successfully combined high-impact instructional materials with intensive teacher training and classroom support.
Yeah, so this means nearly 500,000 students will benefit from what he says are these high-quality foundational reading and math programs. NYC Reads is already in all K through 5 schools, but it'll be expanded for the first time to middle schools. Both NYC Reads and NYC Solves is on track to be fully implemented in middle schools across all districts by the 27-28 school year.
It is our responsibility to build strong readers and mathematicians at every age. And we are going to continue providing unprecedented levels of teacher and school support to get there.
That's the school's Chancellor, Melissa Ramos. The push to get panic buttons installed in New York City bodegas is on. And the question is, who will pay for these bodega panic buttons?
This isn't a luxury. This is a life-saving tool.
That's Fernando Mateo, who heads the United Bodega Workers of America, says a panic button installed behind the counter that connects directly with the police would save lives. I mean, so many times we report on these bodegas being held up.
This is a city that has 25, 30,000 bodegas. So 50 is a drop in the bucket.
Question is, though, who's going to pay for all of those? Free tickets to Knicks playoffs games. It's now a campaign platform in the race for mayor.
On Monday, the same day, a new poll showed fast-climbing Assemblyman Zoran Mandami polling at 22% and running a solid second in the Democratic primary. The campaign of the candidate, representing both the Democratic Party and the Democratic Socialists of America, was thinking free basketball. His campaign called for Knicks ownership to give away 1,000 playoff tickets to working-class New Yorkers. Myrie did not define working class, nor did he suggest the city should pay for the seat, or would if he was elected. Citing an example set by the Philadelphia 76ers last year, Myrie is circulating an online petition promoting the idea. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
Yeah, I think with the 76ers, though, they can give away those tickets because people aren't sitting in the seats to watch those games. And we'll end with this. Commercial beekeepers nationwide say there's been at least a 60% drop in their honeybee population. We've been seeing a lot of stories about these. Industry experts reporting millions millions of honeybees have died this year. And here's a master beekeeper out on Long Island says, she's had the same experience.
This is the worst loss of honeybees we have ever seen. They're working very hard to hit those targets and make their pollination contracts, but we don't know if that's going to be possible this year.
Yeah, and there are worries that the honey production could be felt across the nation.
This could be a major problem. I'm sure the beekeepers are doing everything they can to split hives and try to build up their population.
Could make prices go up. It could make there could be shortages in food, certain foods for this year.
So they're not really sure what's killing these off or why these bees are not producing like they used to. There is some thought maybe weed killers, pesticides are taking down the honeybee population. So these beekeepers on Long Island are asking you to stop using those things.
Don't use weed killers that much. Don't. A lot of people are having their lawns treated for grubs when there aren't any grubs, and that pesticide gets into the roots of the trees, comes out into the nectar that the bees bring back to the hive.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?